Have you ever noticed how two men can walk into the same room, one barely glanced at, the other instantly respected, before either has said a single word? It's one of the oldest realities of human nature. The world judges in an instant, and that judgment almost never changes. History is filled with great men who were dismissed, not because they lacked genius, but because they failed to package it in the symbols that the crowd obeys. Niccolo Machiavelli called this the cruelty of perception, the law that punishes truth when it is poorly dressed. A fool in fine robes is treated like a sage. A sage in rags is treated like a fool. The tragedy is that most men never realize this law governs their entire lives. They wonder why their intelligence is ignored, why their words carry no weight, why doors seem to close before they even knock. The answer is not in what they are, but in what they look like. Appearances strike faster than logic. Before reason can speak, the eye has already declared its verdict. To appear poor, even for a moment, is to carry the mark of weakness, a stain that power does not forgive. When you enter a room, when you sit at a table, when you shake a hand, judgment happens faster than breath. The world doesn't wait to hear your thoughts. It studies your posture, your shoes, your grooming, your tone. It doesn't ask what you know. It reads what you signal. And once that image settles in someone's mind, no amount of explanation can undo it. As the philosopher Baltasar Gracian wrote, "Things do not pass for what they are, but for what they seem. Few see inside. Everyone sees what's outside." You can see this law in every transaction. A man in torn clothes enters a boutique. The clerk's smile fades. The service slows. The offers shrink. The respect evaporates. A second man walks in, tailored, composed, even if broke beneath the surface, and the entire atmosphere changes. Suddenly, every hand is eager to help. Every tone becomes sweet. Every obstacle softens. The difference lies not in the size of their wallets, but in the strength of their image. In commerce, perception is profit. In power, it is survival. Look at modern business titans, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bernard Arnault. Before they ruled empires, they mastered projection. Bezos's early Amazon years were marked by relentless simplicity, but even then, he controlled optics, the crisp shirt, the sharp posture, the confident tone. He understood that credibility must precede achievement. The same rule applied to Renaissance princes who draped themselves in gold, not to celebrate success, but to create the illusion of it. Because illusion brings real alliances, real opportunity, real control. The law sharpens as one climbs the hierarchy. In the corridors of power, a man who dresses below his rank signals vulnerability. A leader who fails to embody wealth, order, and strength invites rebellion. Even today, CEOs don't just manage balance sheets, they manage appearances. A wrinkled suit at the negotiation table can cost millions. A moment of visible uncertainty can sink confidence. Power respects image more than fact. Truth takes time. Image conquers instantly. History forgets the wise counselor whose advice was sound, but whose robes were tattered. It glorifies the charlatan wrapped in velvet who spoke the same words with confidence. The crowd never follows truth. It follows spectacle. And in that spectacle, a man's clothing, bearing, and composure become the script through which others read his worth. Think of two men of equal poverty, one slouched, apologetic, eyes downcast, the other upright, crisp, radiating quiet control. The world bends differently around them. One becomes invisible, the other is served first. Both may own nothing, but only one is perceived as valuable. That illusion is not deception, it's strategy. Men obey symbols more than reality itself. Appear weak, and you invite predation. Appear strong, and the wolves hesitate. To look poor is to declare open season on yourself. The eye sees vulnerability. The subconscious interprets danger as gone. Predators, whether in business, love, or friendship, can smell it. And the cruel truth, they are drawn not to your honesty, but to your fragility. As Machiavelli warned, men are so simple and so obedient to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived. Power requires disguise. You do not lie, you perform. You do not fabricate, you frame. Even armies are ruled by optics. A general whose soldiers march ragged into battle has already lost before swords cross. His enemies see weakness, his allies see doubt, his men feel shame. Victory begins in spectacle, banners held high, armor gleaming, formation perfect. These are not costumes, they are weapons that strike the mind first. As Napoleon once said, a soldier will fight long and hard for a bit of colored ribbon, appear superior, and you win before the first shot. Appear defeated, and no strategy will save you. The world loves to pretend it values modesty, yet it bows to luxury every day. The priest preaches humility, but kneels deeper before the donor. The politician speaks of equality, but dines only with the adorned. The scholar praises poverty, yet dreams of palaces. Men worship appearances because they fear them. To look poor is to embody that fear. To look powerful is to command it. Never forget, people cannot see your mind, but they can see your shoes. They cannot weigh your wisdom, but they can weigh your presence. The moment you neglect this law, you hand your fate to their shallow perception. The question now becomes, once weakness has been seen, can it ever truly be erased? Or does the stain remain forever? Once the world has seen your weakness, it remembers. Memory is the cruelest judge, and it never forgets the image of a man caught in lack. Even if years later you rise in wealth or fame, the shadow of that early poverty clings to you. The whisper, "He was once nothing," will follow you like smoke. In power, people don't just judge what you are, they judge what you've always appeared to be. The man who hides his poverty early may one day be admired as mysterious, even legendary. The man who exposes it is chained to it forever. Every day, this law unfolds before your eyes. Walk through any street, any market, any boardroom, it's visible. The crowd naturally parts for the man who radiates composure, elegance, and quiet authority. Yet it closes upon the ragged as if poverty were a contagion. It's not mere vanity, it's instinct. People associate visible wealth with capability and danger, and visible lack with safety to exploit. Those who appear powerful are treated as threats. Those who appear poor are treated as prey. It's not morality, it's biology dressed as culture. Even invisibility becomes punishment. A man who looks poor is not hated at first, he is ignored, and that is worse. He speaks, but no one listens. He warns, but no one believes. He dreams, but his dreams are mocked. In contrast, a man who projects wealth, even falsely, forces the world to pause before striking. Respect, or at least hesitation, is his shield. As Robert Greene observed, the mirror reflects reality, but reality is nothing more than a reflection. Perception shapes truth faster than truth can defend itself. Look at history's quiet victims, the philosophers whose brilliance never left their cramped apartments, the inventors who died unacknowledged because they looked like beggars, the artists who starved while imitators in finer clothes were crowned as geniuses. They weren't beaten by talent, they were beaten by optics. They failed to dress their ideas in armor. Meanwhile, cunning men learned to display polish long before they possessed substance. They borrowed elegance, borrowed words, borrowed poise until the world believed it was genuine, and the belief itself made it real. You see this pattern repeating across centuries. The Medici in Florence understood that silk and ceremony built empires as much as gold. They financed painters and sculptors not for beauty, but for power. The art made their wealth appear divine. Centuries later, the same trick re-emerged in modern form. Steve Jobs walked on stage in a black turtleneck and jeans, projecting ascetic genius. Warren Buffett plays the humble investor, but every gesture, the Coke can, the quiet confidence, signals invulnerability. It's all theatre, deliberate and rehearsed. And what of you? Have you mastered the theatre of perception, or do you still cling to the hope that truth alone will save you? The world does not wait for essence. It reacts to signs. The symbol of strength, however thin, always outruns the substance behind it. A rented suit commands more attention than unpaid wisdom. The illusion of control attracts real opportunity. The confession of struggle repels it. That is why the first impression matters more than a lifetime of explanations. Men forgive failure, but they rarely forgive visible poverty. A first image becomes prophecy. Show power, and the world will excuse your mistakes. Show weakness, and it will dismiss your victories. People hold on to that first snapshot, the moment their eyes decided who you were, and no later triumph will fully erase it. The first frame defines the film. In psychological studies of hiring, researchers found that recruiters form opinions within 7 seconds of meeting a candidate. 7 seconds. Then the rest of the conversation becomes an exercise in confirmation, not discovery. The mind justifies what the eye already decided. This is why priests dress in gold, judges sit on thrones, and presidents speak from grand stages. None of it is practical. All of it is strategic. Rituals and garments exist to remind the masses of hierarchy. Even religion understands that holiness alone is not enough. It must be seen to be believed. The robe is not sacred, it's persuasive. The mask is not deception, it's design. Never forget, society doesn't reward honesty about weakness. It punishes it. To admit lack is to invite limitation. To display strength, even when hollow, is to buy time until it becomes real. Pretend until you possess, the script says. And that line isn't moral corruption, it's Machiavellian realism. The power of appearance is so absolute that a single illusion, maintained with consistency, can rewrite destiny. You need not be rich to begin, you need only look like you could be. The poor man's fatal mistake is thinking he must wait for success to look successful. The wise man reverses the order. He projects the life he intends to build, and the world conspires to deliver it. Investors trust him sooner. Partners follow him easier, lovers respect him more. Appearance breeds momentum. The illusion of wealth is not vanity. It's gravity pulling opportunity closer. But here lies the question that divides the strong from the naive. How long can a man wear a mask before it becomes his face? How long can he play the role before the role consumes him? That is the dangerous brilliance of illusion. It doesn't just fool others. It begins to shape you. And that transformation, once started, can never be undone. There comes a moment when every man must decide, will he spend his life chasing comfort or invest in symbols that make comfort inevitable? Because in a world ruled by appearances, the robe matters more than the meal, the impression more than the truth. Most people confuse this with vanity, but vanity seeks applause, strategy seeks survival. The vain man spends for admiration, the strategic man spends for power. Every coin spent on image, every hour devoted to posture, tone, and composure. These are not luxuries. They are weapons. In this theatre of survival, everything communicates. The crease in your shirt, the calm in your speech, the steadiness of your gaze, all announce who you are before your words arrive. A wrinkle in your clothing becomes a crack in your armor. A tremor in your voice becomes an opening for attack. The careless man leaks weakness through details and wonders why he keeps losing silent wars. The world will never say he was just tired. It will say he's falling apart. Power does not forgive visible fragility, and yet most people cling to the fantasy that substance alone will shine through. They believe their effort, honesty, or intelligence will speak for them. But in business, negotiation, and love, Truth whispers, while appearances shout. Machiavelli warned that men judge more by their eyes than by their hands, for everyone sees, but few can touch. The modern world hasn't evolved beyond that, it's amplified it. We live in a digital palace where perception is currency. On social media, investors back the founder who looks competent. Audiences follow the influencer who looks wealthy. Even presidents campaign in color-coordinated uniforms. It's not deception, it's the psychology of influence. Think of how luxury brands weaponize this law. A $5,000 Rolex doesn't keep better time than a $50 watch. It keeps better status. It announces that its wearer has crossed an invisible line, that he belongs to a higher tier of command. In the same way, Apple's minimalist design isn't simplicity, it's spectacle disguised as humility. Elon Musk's black suits, Steve Jobs' black turtleneck, Barack Obama's identical navy suits, all calculated uniforms meant to project consistency, control, and myth. The powerful dress not to please, but to dominate. The battlefield of perception extends beyond the boardroom. Armies have always known this secret. Spectacle wins the mind before steel wins the field. Flags, drums, and gleaming armor exist to hypnotize both enemy and ally. Alexander the Great marched with golden-plated shields, not for protection, but persuasion. Napoleon demanded that his soldiers polish their boots even after days of mud because, as he said, a man who keeps his boots shining believes in his own victory. Even a weary army can appear invincible if it looks the part, and in that illusion, morale becomes reality. But the same law governs peace as well as war. In negotiation, the poor-looking merchant, however skilled, is dismissed before the first word leaves his mouth. The one who arrives composed and adorned, even if he carries less capital, is received with courtesy and trust. Contracts are signed not because his terms are better, but because his image feels safer. The transaction of respect happens long before the exchange of goods, and in love, the law grows even sharper. A man who looks powerless, desperate, or uncertain may have genuine affection, but affection does not inspire attraction. Women are drawn not to truth, but to the symbols of safety, control, and potential. The man who appears strong, even when he hides his hunger, commands devotion. The one who displays his struggle invites pity, and pity is contempt disguised as care. To look poor in love is to beg for betrayal. This is why in every arena, money, war, or romance, the game begins in the eye, not the heart. You do not have to deceive. You have to discipline what the world sees. Every gesture, every word, every silence is a brushstroke, painting your perceived worth. Even the smallest mistake can collapse the entire illusion. When you flinch, the crowd sees fear. When you hesitate, they see defeat. When you slouch, they see surrender. You might be brilliant, but the image tells a different story, and the image always wins. Consider the silence of powerful men. When a man who looks rich is silent, his quiet becomes mystery, his pause becomes strategy, his restraint becomes dominance. But when a man who looks poor is silent, it reads as ignorance, insecurity, or shame. The same action, interpreted through different masks, creates opposite worlds. That is the cruelty of optics. Meaning doesn't live in behavior, it lives in the frame through which behavior is seen. We are all actors on a stage that never closes. The stage doesn't ask whether you want to perform, it only asks whether you perform well. Those who refuse to play are ridiculed as fools. Those who master performance are rewarded as kings. Shakespeare wrote, "All the world's a stage," but he forgot to mention the stakes. To appear unprepared on that stage is to be devoured by the audience. The mask, therefore, is not deception, it's self-defense. You wear it until it fuses with your skin. And if you wear it long enough, the illusion becomes real. The poor man who disciplines his projection eventually becomes the man he pretended to be. The danger lies only in forgetting that this is war. An endless war fought with glances and impressions instead of swords. So the question shifts. Can you live by illusion without losing yourself to it? Can you wield the mask until it becomes your face, without letting it consume your soul? Because if you fail to answer that, someone else will wear the mask better, and the world will believe him more than it ever believed you. Distinction is power. In every crowd, the man who stands apart commands attention, while the one who blends in dissolves into dust. Poverty, real or performed, erases distinction. It makes you one of many, a sea of faces easily ignored. But wealth, or even the illusion of it, pulls gravity toward you. People notice, they whisper, they assign you meaning beyond what you say or do. This is how kings rise, brands dominate, and men rewrite their fate, not through truth, but through spectacle. Look at history. The Medicis funded artists not for love of art, but to carve their name into eternity through magnificence. Louis XIV built Versailles not as a home, but as a mirror to blind rivals with glory. He understood that fear and fascination were twins born of appearance, and today the same theatre lives on. The world's billionaires launch rockets, not because they need to, but because spectacle is the modern fortress. It reminds humanity that they dwell above. When Elon Musk unveiled a car into space, it was not engineering. It was empire building through optics. Even your enemies are ruled by this law. They attack only when they believe you are weak. A man who appears fragile invites the blade, but a man who radiates command, even when hollow, poisons their courage. They hesitate, calculate, delay, and that hesitation is your victory. Fear is protection, disguised as respect. Men will betray those they pity, but obey those they fear. Machiavelli warned, "It is safer to be feared than loved if one cannot be both." And fear, in the civilized world, is born not of violence, but of appearance. The same truth infects alliances. When you look poor, even your friends become opportunists. They lend small favors, not out of care, but to bind you with invisible debt. They see your desperation as an opening to control you. Yet when you appear wealthy, doors swing open. Invitations arrive. People attach themselves to your image, hoping to share in its power. Loyalty, in every age, is not a matter of character. It's a matter of perception. Men invest where rewards seem certain, and the image of abundance is a promise that magnetizes devotion. This is why the rich attract loyalty, even when unworthy, and the poor are abandoned even when virtuous. The crowd loves success, not because it understands it, but because it wants to touch it. People want to be near the throne, even if they hate the king. That's the paradox of human nature. Admiration is just fear with good lighting. In love, the same law rules quietly. A woman may praise a man's kindness, but she follows his certainty. She may say she values honesty, but she seeks protection, stability, power, all of which she reads through symbols. A clean collar, confident tone, deliberate movement. These are primal signals that her instincts translate as security. Appear poor, appear unsure, and affection turns to anxiety. Appear strong, and even flaws become forgiven. The man who looks like a provider commands desire. The man who looks needy commands pity, and pity, once given, never turns back into respect. You cannot reject this stage. The moment you step outside, the world's eyes begin to read you, to rank you, to react to you. You are always broadcasting, even in silence. If you refuse to control the signal, others will interpret it for you, and their judgment will become your reality. That's why the wise treat every movement, every glance, every gesture as performance. They understand that power is less about truth than about choreography. Think of it this way. The crown itself is just metal. The robe is only fabric. The palace is mere stone. But when arranged in ritual, they command armies. When stripped away, the same king becomes mortal, mockable, powerless. Power is not an object, it's a perception woven from objects. The throne lives in the minds of those who believe in it. Lose the illusion, and you lose the obedience it creates. The same logic governs your daily life. The businessman who enters a negotiation looking careless bleeds profit before he speaks. The one who radiates control wins before presenting his numbers. The difference is not skill, it's theater. The general who marches troops in shining armor wins morale before the battle. The leader who looks unbreakable inspires loyalty before speaking. Appearances decide victory long before the outcome is earned. And loyalty, in the end, is always conditional. People are loyal to what they fear losing. Appear replaceable, and you will be discarded. Appear indispensable, and they will defend you as if defending themselves. The poor man, by looking common, looks replaceable. The rich-looking man, by seeming unique, becomes irreplaceable. Distinction is the rarest currency, and appearance is how you mint it. Understand this final cruelty. Humility is admired only when worn by the powerful. When a king humbles himself, the crowd praises his virtue. When a poor man does the same, they call it defeat. Choice is respected, compulsion is despised. Therefore, never display the humility that is forced upon you. Cloak it in grandeur until it looks voluntary. Everything around you operates by this code. Governments, religions, corporations, they survive through managed optics. Cathedrals rise higher than palaces not for heaven's sake, but to awe the human eye. Golden robes, ringing choirs, marble floors. These are not tools of prayer, but of control. People bow not to faith, but to spectacle. And if even priests and kings need the costume of power, how much more do you? You may think honesty about your struggle will earn respect. It won't. It will earn pity, and pity is slow death. You may believe substance will outshine surface. It won't, because men are blind long before they are wise. The eye rules faster than the mind, and in a world ruled by vision, you must become what the eye worships. So build your mask carefully, not as deceit, but as discipline. Every detail, your tone, your dress, your silence, is a fortress wall. Protect it, polish it, because one day, when the crowd gathers to judge, you will have no time to speak. They will see, decide, and move on. And in that moment, your image will either crown you or erase you. Never look poor, even if you are. Because poverty may end, but the memory of it never dies. Better to starve unseen than to eat while the world watches you beg. Better to walk hungry in armor than full in shame. For the world bows not to truth, but to the mask. And the man who masters the mask masters men. If you've listened this far, it's because you already know this law lives inside you. Now the only question that matters is, will you let appearances rule you, or will you rule through them? Type in the comments. I will never look poor. Let the world know you've chosen power over pity, mastery over invisibility. And as always, stay rich and powerful.